Hey guys, good morning. It is December 30th, 2016. Almost the end of the year, and I got a little update for y'all. So, as I covered in a previous video, I decided to not necessarily scrap, but move away from my idea of building like a modular Rocky Mountain layout because even though that layout was supposed to be portable, it turned out to not be as portable as I needed to be. It was really hard to get into certain situations of, places that you'll live, and also it only sets up in one shape. So that's a really big problem because if you have different shaped rooms and you can't fit a 5 foot by 8 foot layout, then it just kind of messes you up. But I decided to model something flat just for now, and also something that has a lot of action and also a lot of mainline running. So I decided to do the Indiana Railroad, and I recently got this discontinued Cato 9005. It's a SD90/43 MAC locomotive. The Indiana Railroad has about, I don't know, 10 to 15, maybe 18 of these. They're all long-term CEFX lease engines. I guess because it's a long-term lease, that's why they were able to paint it in their paint scheme. The paint's a little brighter than the Atlas GP38-2, as you can see there in the background. I kind of wish it was a little closer to the same, but I don't know. We'll see what I can do about that. But anyways, I've been working on my track plan a lot. I decided to make a flat layout and do the Indiana Railroad because I have always liked Indiana. I like the heartland feel. I don't know, those have not been to Indiana. It's just a very American feeling state to me anyway. And I like, because there's a lot of stuff going on there. There's industry, there's logistics, there's farming, there's just, you know, everything is just pretty cool there. And apart from the fact there's no mountains, and I kind of like mountains, it's just all flat, but it makes it a little easier for modeling because when you make a modular layout and you try to do grades and then you can't include one of the pieces because, one time you set up your layout, then you just don't have as much space, and it just kind of makes a problem because it just cuts off your grade, or your grade can't come together unless you have all the pieces. So anyways, Indiana Railroad, a little bit of history, started in 1986. Gentleman whose name I don't recall, and then his partner, I think he had a business partner. They bought a piece of track from, I think it was Palestine, Illinois, I'm sorry, to Indianapolis, off of the Illinois Central, which was going downhill fast at the time before it was acquired by the CN. And then just recently in the later 2000s, they got trackage rights over the Indiana and Louisville Railroad, which is, I think it might be owned by the CSX, but it includes part of the original Monon, which is the Hoosier Land Railroad trackage rights, because the Monon is a defunct railroad, old defunct railroad, fallen flag railroad. And then also in the later 2000s, they got, I think it was a Milwaukee line or Sioux line, I can't remember, from up to Chicago. So the Indiana Railroad kind of forms an X across Indiana, West Point being Palestine, Illinois, junction with the CN there, and then it goes east to Indianapolis, and then there's a junction with CSX there, and there's also, they have big transloading, I don't know how big they are because I haven't actually rail fandom, but there's transloading facilities in Indianapolis and other places for road to rail type services. There's also a hub yard in, I think it's Effingham, Indiana, where the north and south main line crosses the east and west main line, and that's their main hub yard. So then there's traffic obviously going up to Chicago and hooking up with the major hubs. They have connections with half a dozen other small short line railroads, a belt railroad, Indiana and Louisville Railroad. I think there's an Indiana Ohio Road. I'm not sure about that one. If they have a connection with that or not, but they have a lot of other connections. Thing that's cool about the Indiana Railroad, it's the only Class 2 railroad that hooks to 6 of the 7 big Class 1 railroads. Hooks to all the Class 1 railroads, from my understanding, with the exception of the Kansas City Southern. So that kind of makes it kind of exciting to model, because you have all that bridge line traffic, you have the big locomotives, you have unit coal trains pulling coal out of the Bear Run mine which is Peabody Energy. So you have the unit coal trains that fuel a lot of power plants in northern Indiana, northern central Indiana. You have a lot of CEFX and HLCX or ACLX trains and power, lease stuff. You have grain trains. You have unit intermodal trains, because they have an intermodal facility in Indianapolis. You have bridge traffic from all over the world going through the Indiana Railroad, because it hooks up with, obviously CSX, and then main hub in Chicago. And then there's also coal traffic heading north into Minnesota to serve coke plants in Minnesota for the steel industry. So you just have a lot of stuff. That you can do. A lot of industries, pretty much every industry you can possibly imagine that exists, either served by or shipping on the Indiana Railroad, whether it's a destination or a, origination point on the Indiana Railroad. So on my layout, I decided to redo my track plan from the original Rocky Mountain track plan idea, make a flat track plan. I need to be able to, this layout needs to be able to fit everywhere and be able to operate in fitting everywhere. My wife keeps saying I should build an around the wall layout. The problem is, all the different places we live, I never know what the around the wall is going to look like. So I just wanted to build a layout and be able to operate it any way that I want. So this is the plan that I came up with. It's 100% flat. There's no grades. There's going to be a lot of scenery variations, because in Indiana, even though things have the illusion of being completely flat, things aren't actually flat. There's a lot of rises and dips that are almost, you can't almost don't see them, don't notice them, because they're so slight. But from a modeling perspective, those things can be actually pretty exciting to try to recreate. And then obviously there's lots of fields of corn and soybeans and wheat that, you can model. So let's look at this track plan real quick here. So it's a 4x8 track plan. And it's designed to operate as a standalone track plan, but it also is going to split like a plus sign. It's going to split here and it's going to split here. So it's going to split into 4 2-foot by 4-foot quadrants that are going to be able to be reconfigured into other layout designs besides 4x8. And they're also going to be able to be part of a larger future modular railroad that I plan to construct. These places aren't anywhere actually specific on the Indiana Railroad. They're just kind of a suggestion of what you will find when you go to Indiana, just as a basic, traveler of Indiana. Originally, I struggled a lot with creation of this town, because I wanted the road to go straight through the town, but it just didn't work out with the track work. And after looking at towns in Indiana, because my wife's from Indiana, so we visit there quite often, I noticed that, right here, right over here in the, there's a lot of towns that have these 30-degree and 45-degree bends in Indiana. So I decided to plan some of those in, because it just gave me a lot more space for industries and stuff. So this layout is going to be kind of like a short line slash branch off of the main Indiana Railroad, but it could be incorporated into a modular section of the main Indiana Railroad if, you know, whenever I get there in time and space. So down, let me find my pointer stick real quick here. Try to hold this video still with one hand. Down here on the bottom is going to be, this whole bottom track is going to all be an interchange track. And I created this, the track picture in AnyRail, and then I copied and pasted it into Paint. Nice thing about AnyRail is you can actually measure things. You can see how I measured 17 inches, which is how long two Atlas GP38-2s are coupled together, MU'd together. So I know that I'll be able to complete my run around move by using this little track up there at the top, which says 17 inches. I'll be able to use that track. So the AnyRail allows you to measure exactly where all these little white points are connection points on the track, and it enables you to measure exactly where on the layout these points are. So what that allowed me to do is make this bottom track be the same distance away from the edge of the layout as this top track is away from the edge of the layout. So that will make kind of a standard for the modular theme. And then also this layout, I'll be able to expand it. Let's just talk about a little bit about the operations real quick here. Down at the bottom is the interchange track. This bottom track all the way along here is all the interchange track where all different loads to serve the industries of this town will come in, and they'll be dropped off by, you know, my SD90 Mac or SD90 43 Mac, or if I get like an SD40-2, one of the Intermountain ones that just came out in Indiana Railroad scheme, I'll be able to use those. They'll get dropped off at the interchange track, and then this track here is for storage of the locomotives, and locomotives will start here, and they'll come up and they'll cut down in and take the cars and separate them apart and run around and do different moves. This is like a warehouse that has like a road interface. There's going to be like, for some short straight trucks will be back into docks here. And then basically I have it set up as a cold storage plant. I don't know if you can read that. Cold storage warehouse. But you know, I might change it. I already have 5 reefer cars, a modern reefer, so I just figured I would just set it as that just for the plan, sake of the plan. You have the main street. I have flat buildings along the backdrop here, and kind of like a town hall with like a little fountain area here in the corner. Different shops here along parallel parking lot. I want to emphasize vehicles because in the modern world we see a lot more cars than we see trains, and I want to kind of lend that thought in the railroad, as well as like on the other side I have just a whole section that's just a field of corn. It's not wasted space, it's just kind of trying to show, you know, when you're driving through Indiana, like you just see fields and fields and fields of different grains and corn and soybeans and stuff. So that will kind of give that impression, as well as the road being perfectly straight gives you the idea that, yeah, the roads are perfectly straight there, because they really are. I have a T-style backdrop, which gives me more photo and operation opportunities, because it's basically 3 scenes, but depending on how this works out, it can actually even appear to be 5 or 6 scenes with the different photo dividers that are there. So